Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Happy Monday to you, SportsIQ, and away we go. We were just talking here, producer Tony and I, about just this weekend. Again, the drama. I've kind of told you before that I tend to, last year I really tend to lean more to college football. But boy, Sunday NFL, you sucked me right back in with some of these crazy games. It was just nuts. We've got college football coming up here quite a bit. In a couple of minutes, David Cloninger joining us, talking about that South Carolina game, the Gamecocks falling out of the rankings in the coaches poll. They're down, I think, to 24th in the AP after getting blown out at home, 31-7 by Vanderbilt. Just a crazy game. We'll talk to him about that. Also, Peter Rauterkus on the way to 2, talking Auburn Tigers as we get ready again, getting deep into SEC play. It's that time of year. Let's start with, the NFL and some of the big stories. A rematch of last year's Super Bowl. The defending champion Eagles going to Arrowhead Stadium. And just like last year in the big game, controlled the Chiefs' offense from start to finish. The Eagles' defense holding Patrick Mahomes to only 187 yards through the air. No touchdowns. Mahomes did score a TD on the ground for the Chiefs' only score. Saquon Barkley, 88 yards on the ground. Jalen Hurts, 101 yards. The offense did just enough to get that 20-10 win. Meanwhile, on the other end, there was not much offense there. There was plenty between the Giants and Cowboys, combining for nearly 1,000 yards of offense. But it was the leg of kicker Brandon Aubrey who determined the winner. Aubrey hitting a 64-yard field goal as time expired to force overtime. The Cowboys then used a Russell Wilson interception as the key spark to drive into field goal range again for Aubrey to kick a 46-yard game winner at the gun in overtime. 40-37 Dallas. That was crazy. It also came down to a kick in Indy. Spencer Schrader had a chance from 60 yards to send Indy to a win over the Broncos, but came up short. Looked like a Denver win, but the Broncos were called for a leverage penalty. That's a 15-yard penalty. So Schrader had another shot. This time he did not miss. Colts come away with a 29-28 win. Daniel Jones, sharp again for, where was this Daniel Jones in New York? Passing for over 300 yards and a touchdown, ran for a score as well. By the way, our moment of awe will come from this game a bit later. A moment of this morning in Cincinnati as the Bengals announced that Joe Burrow will need toe surgery, out for 3 months. He left the game early yesterday. Jake Browning coming in. Despite throwing 3 interceptions, he did lead the Bengals to a come-from-behind win, 31-27 over the Jaguars. Now, Burrow left the game in the first quarter with that toe injury. He did not return. He was seen in a walking boot after the game. And again, surgery for him, out 3 months. We'll see you in December. If then, he could be done for the year. In Baltimore, Joe Flacco getting a very rude welcome home from the homestanding Ravens. Flacco harassed all day, had a fumble and interception that helped the Ravens to a rather easy 41-17 win. Now, the Browns defense did hold Derrick Henry to only 23 yards rushing, but Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdown passes to make it a rout. Other Week 2 winners, including the Bills, Niners, Rams, Patriots, Seahawks, Cardinals, and Falcons over the Vikings on Sunday night. Okay, college football. It's become the NFL. Didn't take long for coaches to find out that losing to certain teams can bring some very hard and very difficult results, as in being unemployed. UCLA losing Saturday to New Mexico, 35-10. It might be one of the lowest moments in Bruins history. The school announcing that on Sunday that head coach Deshaun Foster had been relieved of his duties with the program. Foster, the former star running back for the Bruins, his tenure lasting only 15 games, 5-10 overall, just 0-3 this year. Things get worse for UCLA before they get better, because now the Bruins are at serious risk of becoming the first power conference team since 2015 to go 0-12. They've given up 108 points in 3 games. Special assistant to the head coach, Tim Skipper, elevated to interim coach. That's the second year in a row that he's held that kind of position. He worked as the interim coach at Fresno State last year following the health resignation of Jeff Tedford. So a lot of problems in Westwood. And boy, just a bad crowd. We talked to Ben Royer last week about that students weren't on campus yet. You see the pictures of the Rose Bowl? Maybe 10,000 people, and I'm being generous if you include the concession staff. I mean, there was nobody there. That's tough. Virginia Tech also decided they need a change after a stunning Saturday loss. Brent Pry is out after the 45-26 home loss to Old Dominion. Third straight by double digits. Virginia Tech 0-3 so far this season. And it doesn't get any easier. After giving up 34 unanswered points at home during a loss to Vanderbilt last week, They now fell to 16-24 under Pry, and they have been disastrous on defense. Well, college football now, and one of the big shockers over the weekend, South Carolina falling to Vanderbilt. And joining us now, back on the show, good to have him, a sports writer covering the Gamecocks, David Cloninger. David, what happened in this game? It seemed like the things were going well, and then all of a sudden, the wheels came off.
The better team won. Vanderbilt was more physical. They played better. They out muscled South Carolina. They out coached South Carolina. They out talented South Carolina. Obviously, a huge part of the game was when Lenora Sellers went down just before halftime. But South Carolina still had a chance to get back in that game and could not do it. So you tip your hat to Vanderbilt and just say, well, they're probably going to have a really special year, but South Carolina didn't have enough to overcome the loss of their starting QB.
Yeah, is it time for us to start respecting Vanderbilt with what they did last year, and with this one again? I mean, those of us who follow the SEC, look. It's tough when they're usually not a power team, right? They're usually not the team you look at and say, well, that's going to be a tough game. That's a game we probably can win. They're not the case right now. They've got a lot of grit and had some big wins the past couple of seasons.
Oh, yeah. And you look at last year, they lost 6 games, but 4 of them were by 7 points or less. Wow. Now's kind of the point of the season where the bill might start coming due, and they're starting to turn those close losses into wins this year. I mean, they've got an older team. They've got a superstar quarterback. They have a plan and stick with it. Those guys hit hard. They on defense, they had a very, very good plan to keep South Carolina contained. And on offense, they know what they're doing to how to really move fast and be aggressive and mix in a lot of explosive plays with a lot of their bread and butter stuff. So, again, it was a terrific game by Vanderbilt. They were hungry for it. And who knows what would have happened if Lenora Sellers had stayed healthy. But South Carolina had an offensive problem before Sellers was hurt. And that's their biggest problem going forward.
Yeah, I want to talk about Sellers in a moment. I want to get your thoughts on Diego Pavia, the star quarterback for Vanderbilt. Big news in the offseason in terms of winning the right to stay in college for one more season. How special is he, not just as an athlete on the field, but just as a leader? He just brings that moxie when he comes on the field.
Oh, sure. I mean, for a place like Vanderbilt, you need to have that kind of attitude. When he first started becoming known last year, I thought, well, you're going to figure out real quick that doesn't work at a school like Vanderbilt just because it's Vanderbilt. Yeah. And, of course, then they go and beat Alabama, and I had to shut up and correct myself. So, but, he's a terrific player. It's one of those, I don't say this as a knock on him because it's not, but he is so good at playing sandlot ball and making it work at this level. He just comes up with some stuff like, come on now, that could never work again in 100 years, but it just worked this time. So he has a habit of doing that. He's very good at it. And those guys rallied behind him because he came in and said, why can't it be us? I know that there's a bunch of bad history here at Vanderbilt, but who's to say we're not turning over a new page right now?
Yeah. Who he reminds me of, and let me just preface this, I am not saying he's on this level. I'm not projecting him to be this quarterback in the NFL, even play in the NFL, but on the college level, watching the college game, watching Diego Pavia play, he reminds me of Brett Favre at Southern Miss in terms of just going and just does it. And not that he didn't have the talent. I'm not saying anything like that, but in terms of just finding ways to make plays, he reminds me of that type of time. Favre just did it. He just whatever it was, he just did it on the college level.
I can definitely see that. I mean, obviously, another big comparison is Johnny Football at Texas A&M, and it's that kind of thing. It's just one of those where you can run to the right side of the field, reverse run back to the left side, and still get your pass downfield and complete it for a touchdown. It's just guys can either do that or they can't. You can't coach that, and that's why they're a very successful team. And I would look at them right now and say, I mean, those guys are probably going to have a really good year.
Yeah. Tough loss again, talking here with our friend David Cloninger, who is the sports reporter covering the South Carolina Gamecocks. Tough loss the other night to Vanderbilt in this one. You mentioned Lenora Sellers going down. Tell us right now, what's his prognosis moving forward?
Well, Shane Beamer wouldn't be too specific on the injury. He just said that he's optimistic that he will be able to play this weekend. They'll have to see. I asked him specifically if he was going to practice last night. He would not say, but he did say, but he will be at practice, though. take from that for what you will, and they had the day off today. So there's other reports out there that say he sustained a concussion. That certainly fits with some of the things that I've heard, but it hasn't been officially confirmed. That said, the injury report will come out on Wednesday night at 8:10, and we'll see what it says for Lenora Sellers. But he took a pretty good lick. I'm sure everyone saw it. And the fact is that, pretty much with any team, if you take out the starting quarterback, it's going to be a struggle. And South Carolina certainly struggled after they lost him.
Yeah, and someone of his talent, too. Just one of the, again, going into the season, one of the guys we're really watching, not just on this level, but even scouts on the next level, watching him very closely. We hope that he's okay and comes back here very quickly. You talked about the offensive issues here. What are you seeing or what are you not seeing right now out of this team that concerns you?
There's no rhythm. There's no flow. A lot of that is that they did have to replace the 3 interior linemen from last year. And it's not just on those guys, it's the tackles too, but everybody on the line is struggling to block. And when you can't run block and you can't pass block, you're not going to have a very good offense. That said, it does seem like they know what the problem is, that it's very hard to get yards up the middle, very hard to establish a running game, and that's going to take you back. But they're also not letting Lenora Sellers freelance too much. They're not trying to move the pocket. They're not working the edges. And it just seems like they don't really know what to do, which is just, frankly, inexcusable at this level of football. I mean, if you have a problem, you go and fix it as best you can and not just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. The other night they moved right down the field and scored their first touchdown, and it was 7-7. You think, great. They get the ball back. They move right down the field again, and Sellers throws an interception that should have been avoided. But he threw it. That kind of squelched things. Then he gets hurt, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of out to lunch. Starting the third quarter, and you have a 4th and 1 with a mobile quarterback in Luke Doty under center. Figure, okay, just line up and pound it down their throat. Mm-hmm. Well, they lined up in a shotgun, and 3 guys smashed through that line and dropped the running back for a 3-yard loss. No. That's a fundamental problem. I don't know if that's going to get fixed, but one thing is that you have a line that don't block, so why would you ever call that play in that situation? But yeah, it's not good. And who knows if it's going to be fixed? I know Shane Beamer's probably not going to make any drastic moves mid-season, but they've got to figure out a way to score points because, as we all know, you don't score, you're not going to win.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that 4th down play. I've seen that happen before, and it is, with all due respect to all the people who make hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars coaching football, why I don't understand why 4th and short you go out of the shotgun. Because if you hand the ball off, the running back has to now go 5 yards, get the line of scrimmage, and the defense has a chance they've got a second and a half to say, okay, he's running to the right. Let's all go there. I mean, you have no advantage from that.
It's the old Greg Schiano line to where, every man on earth thinks he can do something better than every other man on earth. And that's work a grill and coach offensive football. But still, when you look at stuff like that, like, first of all, you're within, I think it was the 34, your own 34.
Yeah.
In a 14-7 game. Why would you do that?
Right.
Because the risks greatly outweigh the reward. But, it didn't work. Vanderbilt scored on that drive, and now all of a sudden, okay, well, you're really in it now. And obviously there was a reason for it. South Carolina looked very deflated when Lenora Sellers went out. But, one, you shouldn't be losing to Vanderbilt at home, and 2, you really shouldn't be getting blown out by Vanderbilt at home. So it's not been from a outside perspective, it's not been a great weekend around here.
Yeah, no question about that. Once again, talking with David Cloninger as we talk about the South Carolina. By the way, I didn't think that the voters in the polls, not that the polls mean anything in September, but I mean, the coaches polled, they dropped the Gamecocks out completely. I just really? Okay. Bad loss, but in the reasons for that, I didn't think that was quite fair enough to, be a team near the top 10, all of a sudden you're out. Obviously it's the SEC. And so, and with South Carolina, with the 2 non-conference games at the end of the season, that means conference season begins early. And of course, it's a juggernaut. Number 23, Missouri coming up now, a competitive Kentucky team next. And then it's just a gauntlet. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. How does this team move forward? Offense is one thing. Defensively, like I said, you just give up 31 points to Vanderbilt. How does this team move forward defensively?
Well, the defense has actually been playing pretty well despite all the talent it lost. It gave up a quick touchdown to Vanderbilt, but then they kind of started to get their feet back under them. I don't blame it necessarily on fatigue because I think Vanderbilt only ran 63 plays. But the fact is that when your offense is just going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, it's really hard to go back out there and then come back and say, okay, we gotta hold up for these guys again. So don't blame the defense that much. Yes, there were some glaring busts in the coverage, but there was also some stuff where it's just, how do you defend a play like that? Where, like we were talking earlier, Pavia runs one side, then goes back to the other, throws on the run while leaping and he completes the pass. Like, sometimes you just say it's not going to be your day. So the defense, I think, will be fine as long as the offense can do its part. You just can't hold anybody off forever. And as we saw in the first two games, South Carolina won its first two games because of what? They got special teams excellence that scored 3 touchdowns, and then you had a defensive touchdown in those games as well. So it's tough to. I'm not going to blame the defense at all. Yes, they certainly could have played better on Vanderbilt, but you always knew if you're getting 3 punt returns for touchdowns in your first 2 games, you can't expect that to last, and it certainly did not.
Yeah. Let's say that Sellers can't go Saturday versus Mizzou. What's going to take to get Doty up to speed? I mean, obviously Sellers was the focal point in the offseason, right? And for good reason. What do you got to do to get Doty ready? And does he have the experience to be ready for a top 25 team?
The only problem that Luke Doty has is he is not Lenore Sellers, and you can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
But Luke is a kid that's been here. He's in his 6th year now. He's already got 2 degrees from this university. He'll turn 24 years old in October. Experience is not the problem. Knowledge is not the problem. He's got talent. He actually played pretty well. He just could not get in the end zone the other night. So there will be no problem about him knowing what to do, about knowing how to play well, about this team following him. This team would follow Luke Doty through the front gates of hell. That's how much they respect him. But again, when you're not Lenora Sellers, it's twofold. One is that the offensive coordinator has to say, okay, I cannot run a Lenora Sellers playbook when I don't have Lenora Sellers.
Right.
I thought that would be obvious, but apparently it wasn't. So, but that would be the only thing. It's just, look, you've got to find a way to get this run game on track, and whatever that entails, you've got to do it. I mean, Luke is a pretty good athlete. He's one of the fastest players on the team, and if you saw him early in the game against Vanderbilt, he was out there doing his thing, juking, jiving, getting past defenders. He's a very, very good athlete. But, obviously defenses, they might have to say, well, can we play this guy the same way we do Sellers, or can we just drop back into a quote unquote normal defense? So we'll see how that goes. I think it's a little bit of advantage if Doty is the starter, but we'll have to see what happens throughout practice. Again, that first availability report will be out Wednesday night.
Yeah, you've covered this team for a long time, and I know you're vested in this program. What's your big concern overall moving forward? Where you are right now to 3 games, maybe compared to where you were 6 weeks ago at the start of preseason camp.
While everybody was talking, playoff bids and Heisman trophies and everything, I didn't want to throw water on any of that because enthusiasm's a good thing. But I said, look, you're talking about a great quarterback and a team that had a great season last year, but you're not talking about all they lost. And they lost a lot of talent off of that 9-win team last year. So you're starting to see some of those weaknesses show up. But the biggest weakness, I thought, I knew the offense would be in for a little bit of an adjustment, but to have it look this poor is a surprise. And I wish I could be more specific on this, but it's just, you got to score points. You have to find a way to get this offense on track. And if that entails scrapping the whole playbook and starting over, that's just what you're going to have to do. Now, I don't think that's very realistic. I think what they're going to try to do, especially if Sellers cannot play, is like, look, just find a way to get through these next 2 games before the bye week. And then maybe you can readjust something into more of a major deal where you don't have to switch week to week. But they're just going to have to find a way to score points because that's the only way you're going to win the games.
Yeah, absolutely. David, always good to talk with you. I know you'll come back and be strong, but love to hear your passion in your voice as we talk about this game. And it's when you follow it day by day and you see things, you have a unique perspective, and that's why we appreciate having you on the show.
Not a problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks so much. David Cloninger, once again, friend of the show. Joining us here, sports writer covering the South Carolina Gamecocks, coming off that 31-7 loss at home, as he mentioned, to Vanderbilt. Hopefully that Lenora Sellers gets healthy and they get ready for a Missouri team, currently ranked 23rd in the country. Okay, we've got more on the way. WNBA, more college football as well. We'll talk a little NFL. We've got lots happening. It's a Sports IQ. Stay with us.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
By the way, quick programming note here in the Sports IQ. We've got some great guests coming up later. Shannon Griffith talking Indiana, that top 25 matchup in Bloomington this weekend against number 8 Illinois. He's on the way. Brian Barnhart, the Illinois play-by-play man, is going to join us later in the week as well. We've got Callum McAndrew from Missouri, Lo Yarnell talking WNBA from Yahoo Sports. I mean, it's a big week here in the Sports IQ. We're having lots of fun here in September. Hopefully you are too. Speaking of WNBA, the playoffs got underway yesterday. Asia Wilson, 29 points. The 2-seed Las Vegas Aces slapping around Seattle, 102-77 in game one of their best of three first-round playoff series. Las Vegas closed the season with 16 consecutive wins. That tied the 2014 Phoenix Mercury for the second longest regular season win streak in WNBA history. Vegas can advance to the semifinals with a win in Game 2 in Seattle on Tuesday. They now go make sure that every team has a home game. So used to you would host the first two, play the third. No, they changed it up. So all the teams will be shifting cities here for Game 2. In Phoenix, New York, making a statement, and the defending champs are not going away easily. Natasha Cloud, 23 points. Brianna Stewart, 18 before hurting her knee in overtime. Liberty over the Mercury, 76-69 in Game 1 of that best of three series. Now, the key concern now for the Liberty is the health of Stewie, who fell to the ground, grabbed at her left knee after making a layup with 3:01 to play in overtime. She stayed in the game, missed a free throw, trying to play through the injury, but left the game about a minute later and did not return. New York coach Sandy Brondello didn't have an update on Stewart's injury after the game. The New York Star had a bone bruise in her other knee in late July that forced her to miss almost a month of the season. Regular season champion Lynx made it look easy in their opening game against the expansion Valkyries, making history as the first ever expansion team to make the playoffs in year one. Nafisa Collier scored 20 points to lead 5 players in double figures. Minnesota breezing to the 101-72 victory over Golden State. Natasha Heidemann had 18 points off the bench for the Lynx, while Kayla McBride added 17. Kayla McBuckets getting it done. In Atlanta, Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard, 20 points each, as the Dream beat Indiana 80-68 in game one of that series. Naz Hillman, the AP sixth person of the year, scoring 16 points, grabbing 9 rebounds for the third-seeded Dream. Okay, Major League Baseball on the diamond. We're getting close right now, and the hottest race is in the American League West. Cal Raleigh tying Mickey Mantle's season record for most homers by a switch hitter with his 54th. Seattle extending their winning streak to 9 by routing the Angels 11-2. They take sole possession of the AL West lead for the first time since June. George Kirby matched his career high with 14 strikeouts. The Mariners completed a 4-game sweep and won for the 20th time in their last 23 home games. I mean, talk about peaking at the right time. Meanwhile, the Astros dropped an 8-3 decision to Atlanta. Former Braves closer Craig Kimbrell, now in Houston, gave up a 2-run shot to Sandy Leon. It was the first homer for the journeyman backup catcher in more than 2 years. The AL East leading Blue Jays completing a 3-game sweep of Baltimore. 11-2 rout. Shane Bieber with his third win in 5 starts for Toronto. The Jays gaining a game on the second-place Yankees thanks to their loss to Boston. The Red Sox using a 6-run first inning, getting 12 strikeouts from Garrett Crochet to beat New York 6-4. So the Red Sox now trail New York by a game and a half in the wild card race. The Jays leading the Yankees by 4 and the Red Sox by 5.5 games. Joyous scene for the Mets on Sunday. Pete Alonso hitting a 3-run homer off Luis Corvello, and the Mets stopped an 8-game losing streak with a 5-2 win over Texas. Now, despite those 8 straight L's, the Mets still clinging to the final wildcard spot in the National League. The New Yorkers are up a game and a half on San Francisco and 2 games on the D-backs in that wildcard race. All right, stay with us. More college football on the way. Peter Rauterkus talking Auburn Tigers next on the SportsIQ.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
My muscles ached. I was tired all the time.
My son had a full-blown asthma attack. It came out of nowhere.
The unsettling thing about some symptoms is
a fever, headaches.
You don't always know what's causing them.
It was Lyme disease from a tick bite.
A reaction triggered by cockroach allergens.
I had West Nile virus from a mosquito.
Threats to your health can come from unexpected places. Mosquitoes, ticks, and cockroaches can make you sick. Get the facts. Visit pestworld.org.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to Sports IQ. We're talking about college football again. We kind of promised we've got a lot of big games again. Looking forward to this weekend. One of them is Auburn taking on Oklahoma in a top 25 matchup. Joining us once again on the show is Peter Rauterkus. He's the Auburn beat writer for Alabama.com. Look, great win to open the season against Baylor, a team kind of on the fringe of the top 25 and a team that many think could compete in the Big 12. But this is the first big test right now for the Tigers. 3-0 so far. What do we know about this Auburn team that maybe we didn't know a month ago?
Man, that's a hard question to answer because I think there is a lot that we still don't know. I think the Baylor win showed more than anything that Auburn can really run the ball. I mean, that was somewhat of a question given they lost their top rusher in Jarquez Hunter from last season, but they came out, ran for over 300 yards. Jackson Arnold ran the ball really well. It's something that he showed glimpses of at Oklahoma, but we showed against Baylor was probably, it was statistically the best rushing game of his career. You got a good output from Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. Didn't see as much in the passing game, and the defense had some struggles, but they're also going against who's probably a really good offensive quarterback at Sawyer Robertson and Baylor. And then you've got these past 2 weeks, 2 overmatched opponents, both games that took care of business. There was, a few issues against South Alabama, only won by 16, only had 3 possessions in the second half, which kind of speaks to South Alabama's ability to stay on the field and Auburn's not being able to put up as much offensively. So, on one hand, I think Auburn looks good through 2 weeks, but on the other hand, I think there's still a lot that we don't know going into SEC play.
And I think that's what was the feeling, and I don't think we got a chance to talk to you in August. What was the outlook? Obviously, everyone's excited. It's a new season, and hey, we're going to do this and do this and do that. But what was the feeling coming into the season compared to maybe leaving the 2024 season? How did things improve, and what was the mindset after spring ball and in preseason?
I think confidence, a little bit of cautious optimism, just because this team has talent. I mean, you can argue that it's the most talented Auburn team, in a few years, maybe even since 2019. I think the big question, obviously, was at quarterback. You're bringing in Jackson Arnold, who's new to the system. He had a frustrating season at Oklahoma last year where, a lot of things didn't go his way and the output wasn't very good. And, I think there was a lot of confidence in the defense, and that's the unit that you can argue maybe underperformed a little bit through the first 3 games. But I think there's confidence in the person. There's still confidence in the personnel. And there was a lot of confidence in the personnel coming into this season. And I think that remains. I really don't know if the first 3 games has changed a whole lot, because you look at, this, maybe coming into this year, and it's all right. You got Baylor week 1. That's kind of a 50-50 game, and Auburn won, and then their next 2 games are both games that you expect to win pretty easily, and Auburn did. So when you look at it that way, how much has really changed since then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, coming off the 2 seasons, the bowl game in Hugh Freeze's first year in 2023, last year 5-7. You mentioned quarterback. It seemed that's been one of the big issues with Auburn these past 2 years. Is not having a QB1. It was, you had different guys coming in. Thorne came in. You know the names better than I do. Is there now some continuity, and we've settled on this is our guy, and moving forward, we're not going to be bouncing around guys under center?
Yeah, I think that was the goal, and that's certainly what they want. And I think that's going to continue as long as Jackson Arnold continues to, play well and stay healthy. Now you can make you can maybe make the case that staying healthy could be something that they want to, be more careful with, given how much they're running him. But I also think him using his legs is just a big part of their offense, and he's someone who's been really effective with his legs. And I think that's also a big reason why Hugh Freeze wanted him and is a fit in this offense. Peyton Thorne obviously was limited as a quarterback. He had some issues, but I think the biggest thing when you look at his fit in the offense, it wasn't what you get with Jackson Arnold. He wasn't somebody who was, he could run a little bit, but he wasn't as mobile. He wasn't as athletic as Jackson Arnold is, and as other quarterbacks Hugh Freeze had in the past. So yeah, I think they like what they have in Jackson Arnold. I think you'll see him. He'll probably have to throw the ball a little bit more going forward, especially in SEC play, where you're going to have to be more balanced. And it'll be interesting to see if he can do it. But at the very least, he's definitely got the receivers around him to make that job easier.
Yeah. Fun to watch so far in these first 3 games. We're talking to Peter Rauterkus again, covering Auburn Tigers for AL.com. How have things gone in the offseason in terms of the transfer portal? Every team uses it differently. The House settlement is now in play. Off the field, from a business standpoint, and it's a bigger business now than ever has been before. Not that it wasn't before. How are things being handled there, and how has Hugh Freeze kind of manipulated the portal under these new rules to get what he wants for this 2025 team?
Yeah, that was a big storyline this offseason about Auburn's adjustment to the House settlement. It's something that, a lot of people argue they weren't doing a great job at, because you look back in June, July, and they were losing recruits left and right. And they had their recruiting class that dropped all the way, I think, number 89 in the country, which is unheard of for a team like Auburn, especially when the last 2 years they finished with 2 top 10 classes. As far as it pertains to the portal, it's hard to really say, because all of the work had kind of already been done for this cycle in the portal in, the spring, and then even earlier back in December, January. And Auburn's recruiting class has recovered a little bit. They the biggest one was adding a 5-star commitment from Braylon Womack, who committed back in August, and they're still, hope to finish that class strong. It's going to be a smaller class than what we saw the past couple of years, so it's going to be really hard to finish in the top 10 anyway. Last year Auburn's class at 25 signees. I would be surprised if they get to 20 this year. So, I think part of that is, and Hugh Freeze has talked about it, their roster right now is a whole lot of underclassmen. And you look at the House settlement and how they want to divvy up that money. They want to focus that on getting a lot of these guys to stay and come back, because they feel like with development, this team can be really good next year with the guys that they have. So he made the analogy of wide receiver, right? You look at Auburn's wide receiver room. You've got Cam Coleman, you've got Eric Singleton Jr., you've got Malcolm Simmons, you've got Perry Thompson, you got Bryce Kane. 4 of those 5 guys that I just mentioned, they're all sophomores, all guys that, definitely, can't even go to the draft next year. You definitely want to get back. So Hugh Freeze made the point, it's like, why, it doesn't make sense for us to try and go out and offer all this money in a spot to an unproven freshman, or maybe even a guy out of the portal, when we really want to focus on getting these guys back. So I think that's the way that Auburn is looking at recruiting and looking at, the House settlement, divvying up money right now. And, it's not something that's going to look great in recruiting rankings and things like that. But I think the way they're trying to build this roster, it makes sense. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Don't you think, and talking to people all over the country and people, beat writers, insiders like yourself, what we're sensing is a shift away from the wild, wild west of the portal to where there is more of a building your culture, keeping the guys healthy, keeping them around, making sure they've got some dollars in their pocket, that they're not trying to go find the highest bidder. It feels like there's a shift to that while the portal's not going away, and I think there are a lot of good things about the portal, we may see a time where the best programs are working on, like you said, identifying that talent, keeping them in-house, and then building towards something rather than just trying to reload every year.
I mean, that's the hope. I mean, but with how things feels like things change every week, so it's hard to say that things are gonna stay that way. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the approach that Auburn wants to take. I mean, Hugh Freeze has said before that they want to build this team through high school recruiting. I mean, I think he said when he got here, and he said this every signing day, give us three signing classes, 3 full signing classes, and we're going to feel really good about where we are. They've had 2, and I guess the belief is after this one they'll really feel good about where the roster stands as compared to the rest of the SEC. Obviously, like I said, this is going to be a smaller class, but you also look at it from the lens of these guys from these top 10 classes the past couple of years are going to be going into their sophomore and junior season. So yeah, I mean, I think that is the way that Auburn's trying to do things.
Yeah. Year 3 of Hugh Freeze and the era there at Auburn. The feeling is that this is third year is when coaches can kind of begin to affect change and they have kind of their players in place. Do you sense a change now in the roster and the way things are done now compared to a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's easier to do things your way when now you've got all of your players and you've got you've just established things over a couple of years. I mean, they've got some continuity with the players, they've got some continuity with the staff, not just Hugh Freeze, but with some of the assistants as well. I mean, you got to look at Auburn from this standpoint too. I mean, this is not a lot of teams this day and age. I mean, are able to return both coordinators. Yeah. Auburn's going into the second year with Derek Nix on the offensive side, DJ Durkin on the defensive side. So yeah, I think all of those things mean a lot, and I think the hope for Auburn is that that'll result in better results this season.
Yeah, Auburn 23 in the country right now, taking on 11th ranked Oklahoma. Game it's in Norman Saturday afternoon. Right now, the Sooners are a touchdown favorite. What do you see about the Sooners team early on? Another team that's trying to find its identity under Brent Venables after a couple of years that they're not happy with in Norman. What do you see there with this team that concerns you as Auburn goes up against them on Saturday?
I think they're a really good team. I mean, you look at, defensively, and I was looking yesterday, they've got, in terms of yards allowed per game, they got the top defense in the SEC. I believe it ranks number 4 in the country. Now they're going to be, limited a little bit going into next week because arguably their best pass rusher, R. Mason Thomas, is going to miss the first half after he was ejected for targeting against Temple. But I mean, that defense, Brent Venables' defenses, they're always very good. I mean, they last season in Auburn, I mean, they got after Peyton Thorne, they pressured him a lot, and it really made life difficult for him, especially later in the game. I think we're going to see a lot of that again this Saturday, especially with the game being in Norman. The guy that in a little bit of gamesmanship is a guy that they're familiar with in Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold will be a little bit familiar with that defense, so that's something to watch as well. And then offensively, I mean, they brought in John Mateer, who seems to be very, very good, through a few weeks. I think with his legs and with his arm, he's going to give an Auburn defense that has been a little shaky at times in the passing game some troubles. And I think Auburn's going to really have to do a lot to prepare for him. So it's going to be a really tough matchup. It's also the first SEC game of the year. It's the big game on the road as well. So it's going to be tough.
I thought that, to your point, Mateer looked really good. And the one test we've seen of him, that was that Michigan game a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, a couple of, muddy games surrounding that. But I thought he was impressive. And like Auburn, maybe the quarterback that Oklahoma's been looking for, right? I mean, some stability there at QB1.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think you make a good point. I mean, it's so similar. You look at Oklahoma team that's had, 3 or 4 different offensive coordinators the last few years. 3 or 4 different quarterbacks the last few years. And, I think them too, they're hoping that they found their guy and they found that stability. And like you said, through a few weeks, it seems to be working.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 11 in the country right now. So big matchup there. As always, it's the SEC. There's never, if you have a weak constitution, this is not the conference for you. Go somewhere else. You've got Oklahoma this week to open, and then at a 10th ranked Texas A&M team that just played just a fantastic game. What a drama-filled shootout that was, and the win over Notre Dame. Of course, the Georgia game, Missouri, 4 straight ranked teams here in the next 4 games. If you're not ready now, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't get any easier. You look at the SEC right now, and they're in a position where there doesn't seem to really be that one huge dominant team, but the league is just so deep. Other than maybe Kentucky, I can't think of any game that you look at, even as a team like Auburn and think, okay, that's an easy win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's really tough, and especially these next two games are both on the road as well against two teams that already have really big wins under their belt. I mean, A&M's got to be feeling really good about themselves after what they did in South Bend last week, and Auburn gets them after playing Oklahoma, which is going to be an emotional game no matter which way it goes. So yeah, I mean, it's a really tough stretch for Auburn. It's a stretch that we circled going into the season. I think that's why that Baylor win especially was huge, because you go into the stretch 3-0, you've got a chance to, maybe slip up a couple times, even go 3-3 in this stretch and, still being a chance to be playing for something in the second half of the season.
The big rivalry game against Georgia coming up on October 11th. There's the bye week before that. So let's look ahead. If Auburn goes into the Georgia game, that's their Jordan-Hare, 5-0, they will have done what well to get to that point and win these next two games?
Everything. I mean, I think they're going to have to do everything well to beat Oklahoma and Texas A&M on the road in back-to-back weeks. I mean, I'll say this. I think we're going to have to see a lot from Jackson Arnold. I think he's going to have to really show us some things, both with his arm and his legs. With his arm especially, that we haven't, quite frankly, we haven't seen yet. And the defense is going to have to certainly tighten some things up. So, but yeah, but quite frankly, it's going to take everything, to win both those two games on the road.
Yeah. It's so exciting right now. I know we talk about, how deep the SEC is, but you're right. At Georgia-Tennessee game, that comes down to a missed field goal regulation. And as a result, Georgia ends up winning. But right now we could be talking about Tennessee undefeated in the top 10. So it is, the fun is just beginning. And we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us about it. Again, the big game is Auburn at Oklahoma. Peter, thanks again. It's safe travels these next 2 weeks, and we'll talk with you soon.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thanks again for having me.
All right, appreciate that. Peter Rauterkus, once again, he's the Auburn beat writer for AL.com. And again, the big game is 3:30 Eastern time kick. It's on ABC. Auburn at Oklahoma. Let the SEC play begin. All right, we'll talk more college football with producer Tony and our moment of awe, something that we've never seen before in the NFL. That's coming up.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341. Hey, airline travelers, let's say you have a problem and you need to change or cancel an existing airline reservation. What do? Well, Skywatch is a free service that can help anyone with any airline reservation fix it. Whether you want to cancel it, change your dates, or add passengers, we can help fix your airline reservations so you get exactly what you need. We've updated our computer database and now have access to every airline around the globe. So now you can make one phone call regardless of who booked your airline tickets, and we'll change it, cancel it, and fix it for you. We know the insider secrets to fixing reservations that the airlines don't want you to know about. So if you need to cancel, change, or modify an existing airline reservation, call Skywatch right now. It's a free call, so let us fix it for you. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. 800-413-7158. That's 800-413-7158.
Welcome back now. A little more college football here on this Monday, and producer Tony talking. Listen, I know you're a big Notre Dame fan, and yeah, they're 0-2. But let me tell you something. This is the grittiest 0-2 team. What a game Saturday night. Look, it just comes down to little things, and botch snap on an extra point, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, you can't afford those kind of miscues, especially late in a ball game, that wind up hurting you in the long run. And, it's not like they've been blown out by two nobodies. These are two teams currently ranked in the top 10. They've lost 2 games by a total of 4 points. Being a big Notre Dame fan, I've been on a lot of the message boards the last 2 days, and people are losing their freaking minds. It's, the earth is ending. There's no rotation. The rapture is here. Everything coming together all at once. They're just, going off the deep end. It's like, calm down. Yeah, we may not make the playoff this year. It doesn't mean we still can't have a successful season. Just relax. Now, the issue I have in watching this as a Notre Dame fan and as a college football insider is watching what Chris Ash is doing to this defense, because there is no way that they should be giving up the amount of air yards that they're giving up in the first 2 games with the caliber of players that they have in that secondary. So to me, that comes down to coaching. And so you look right at the coach who took Al Golden's spot, who is now in Cincinnati, and you say, okay, was this right? This was a guy who failed as a head coach at Rutgers. He washed out as a D coordinator at Ohio State. Not really sure that this is going to be a permanent answer for Marcus Freeman, something he may have to consider when we get to the offseason.
Yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment. That's a fair criticism. There were a lot of gaps in that secondary, especially when I really began paying attention in the fourth quarter after I got in from my day on the lake. It was unlike they kind of came right down the field, and you got to make those stops in that final drive, and they did not. The Aggies kind of did what they wanted to do in that final drive, set up for the touchdown. They had a shot at it, and there it was.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it comes down to. You needed somebody to step up and make a play, and not blaming players for not making a play. You just couldn't get it done. But again, something is different in that scheme from what Al Golden was running, and every D coordinator wants to make their own imprint. But I'm not real impressed so far. So far, Chris Ash looks a whole lot more like Brian Van Gorder than he does Al Golden, and that's not good for him.
No, it's not. It's Notre Dame 0-2, but they stay in the rankings at 24th in the AP. Clemson is out of the rankings, falling to 1-2. And Georgia Tech getting the 55-yard field goal to clip the Tigers and shock them for the first time in a decade, beating them in ACC play.
This is so nothing new for this Georgia Tech team. Brent Key has them playing incredible football, and he has for the past few years. When a ranked team plays Georgia Tech, you better be on upset alert from the get-go, right? Because they are going to play with everything they have. And the other thing I want to say right now, this is September 15th? If you are not looking at Haynes King as a potential Heisman Trophy winner, if you have a vote out there, anybody who can hear this with a Heisman vote, if you're not giving serious consideration to Haynes King as a Heisman Trophy candidate right now, you are doing that man an injustice. He leaves everything out on the field. He is, what is he, like 185 pounds? 183 of it is heart. He plays hard. He plays with grit. And he has that team believing. They believe if Haynes can get it done, they're going to find a way to get it done, and they do.
Yeah. One of the great stories so far, 3-0. They go from not being ranked to jumping to 18th in the polls. Same as Vanderbilt, 3-0. They're at number 20. And also the other newcomer in the AP poll is USC, 25th, 3-0 after beating Purdue on Saturday. Another game, too, was Georgia-Tennessee. This was one, if you're a Tennessee fan and you don't make the playoffs later, you go back to this game. You had a shot to win this. This was winnable into regulation. You don't get it done. Georgia comes through instead, and they get the victory.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was their game to have at a couple of different points, and they just couldn't figure out a way to put it away. When you have that chance, you've got to have some sort of killer instinct and put it away. And they fooled around at the end and gave Georgia a chance. And you never, ever give a team like Georgia an extra chance. I think there was one point where Tennessee played for the field goal. They had gotten a turnover, played it very conservative, 3 runs. Mm-hmm. Why? Why are you running 3 running plays? You're not going to take that much time off the clock to kick a field goal, which means if they come down and score, you can force overtime. That ain't what you want against Georgia. You got to keep that pedal to the metal. You got to move it down. You got to, throw the ball if you have to and find a way to get an extra touchdown on that board so that you can put Georgia in a 9 or 10 point hole and make it that much more difficult to come back. Instead, you settled for a field goal, win up 7, and, there you go. you wind up going to overtime and bad things happen.
Yeah. Well, even early on, you're leading 21-7 at the end of one. I mean, anyone turning the game on late probably was shocked at that score right away. The next quarter plus, Georgia scores 17 straight points to take the lead, and now it's a shootout in the second half. But yeah, I agree with all of that. You've got to keep on and get as much as you can as quick as you can, because Georgia's going to come back, find a way, and they did, and their dominance in the series continues. It's just one of those things. But boy, what a great weekend in college football! So much fun. By the way, the rankings at the top three stay the same. No surprise there. Ohio State, Penn State, LSU 1, 2, and 3. Miami 4, Georgia 5 after the weekend's games. Okay, we've got our moment of awe next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Want to leave you right now with our moment of awe. We talked about at the top of the show, it's going to come from the NFL, and this is just insane. The Colts are 2-0 with Daniel Jones, the guy who washed out in New York, right, with the Giants. He comes in and sets an NFL record. The Indianapolis Colts are the first team in league history to score on their first 10 possessions of a season. That's just insane. They did it last week. They did it this week. They got the win 29-28. They had scores on their first 3 possessions this week, all 7 last week. 10 straight possessions to start a season. The Colts, no one else has done anything like that. That's impressive. That's a moment of awe that truly leaves us in awe. Appreciate our guests as always. David Cloninger here, also Peter Rauterkus, and appreciate you being here as well. We're just one day into the week. Let's make it a good one. Sports IQ. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at SportsIQ LS. We'll see you next time.